right, guys. So welcome back here again to another episode of the Brotherhood podcast. I'm joined today by my good friend, or we've only met each other recently, Brenton, at a Kerwin Ray event called Nail It and Scale It. And man, thank you so much for jumping on today.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Awesome. As you can see, he's outside at the moment, beautiful nature in Australia. Whereabouts you're down in Victoria, isn't it?
No, Bendalong. So South Coast, New South Wales.
Oh, New South Wales.
Those, yeah, sort of down Sussex Inlet, Mollymook, Ulladulla, down sort of in that area.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And I suppose I'd love to jump on straight into it. And yeah, I feel sharing from yourself, and obviously I'm still only getting to know you as well, but we had some great conversations. I really enjoyed our conversations whilst at Nail It and Scale It. Is personally, what has brought you onto this business journey and that journey of personal development? And I suppose there's a lot to that question, but what has kind of brought you onto that journey?
Oh, wow. So, look, I've been in hospitality my whole life. So I've got a restaurant bar, Little Jack Horner in Coogee in Sydney. And I've been in hospitality my whole life since I left school. I was smart enough to do well at school, but not smart enough to actually study and apply myself. So
Yeah.
I got the marks I deserved, but I could have got a whole lot more if I'd have tried, So
Yeah.
once I left school, I didn't know where to go next. I went back to do year 12 again and lasted about 2 months. It just wasn't for me. And I thought I'd do accounting, and that wasn't for me at all. I'm not a book smart. I didn't enjoy applying myself to sit and study. That wasn't my thing. I'm more experiential learning from doing stuff.
Yeah.
So then I needed a job. So I got a job in a bar, and I just had too much fun. It was the best. So I just stayed in hospitality my whole life. In about 2006, I started a restaurant with a couple of mates. There was 4 of us, and that lasted 9 years. But I bought all of the other partners out over sort of 3 or 4 years. And partnerships are hard, because not everybody's putting in the same level of effort. And if you don't clarify up front who's doing what, it'll come back to bite you in the end,
Yeah.
And we didn't set it up. We didn't set it up properly. So anyway, I bought them all out. I'm still friends with 2 of the 4. Unfortunately, one of them I don't talk to anymore. But that was my first business. And having worked in hospitality forever, you think you know everything, but you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I sort of muddled my way through the first 9 years, and I was just having a good time, partying every night. I was always busy, didn't know what was going on in the business. There was money coming in, there was money going out. I didn't know what was mine, what was the government's, what was paying bills one week and not paying another. And I got myself in trouble a couple of times along the way, and then sold that business and started my new one, which is Little Jack Horner. And same thing happened. I was with a business partner then who I've also bought out, and we're still good mates. And same sort of thing again. I was getting to the point where money was coming in, money was going out. I didn't know what was mine, and it's not like I didn't know how to read a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement. I know how to do those things, but there's so much more to business than just that. And then couple that with throughout that whole period since I was 21. I've been, I suppose the word's abusing recreational drugs, and I don't know what's recreational about them, but about 3.5, almost 4 years ago, my wife and I I was going on a surfing trip with 10 of my mates to Tello Islands, and the 5 days before it, my wife and I went to Bali for a weekend, and we said we'd go over there, we'd live life well, we'd do some bushwalking, maybe do some meditation, do whatever it was, we were just going to get up early, enjoy life. And then we got there and I bumped into some mates of mine, and we're back on doing the same thing we were doing at home. And we spent the next 5 days partying every night, sleeping all day, lying by the pool, feeling like rubbish every day. And then on the last day, my wife was sick, Brooke was sick, she couldn't get up, couldn't get out of bed. So we were starting to Uluwatu in the last couple of days. And I went up to Single Fin Bar by myself, and it was packed and it was pumping and everyone was partying. I wasn't feeling it. And I went and got a beer, and I sat on the cliffs at Uluwatu, and anyone that's been there knows that the sunset's just magnificent, And I was sitting on the cliffs, just watching the sunset, having a beer by myself, and the world just sort of slowed down. And it was one of those moments in life that you don't get many of them, but it changed my life. I just sat there and I just thought, there's more to life than what's going on now. There's more to life than what I'm doing. And the only reason I'm not getting the more out of life is because of the way I'm living my life. You know, partying 3 to 5 nights a week wasn't serving me at all well. The business wasn't operating at all well. And it was all because of me. And I decided then and there that I'd changed my life. That was that moment where I said, that's it, never again. No more partying, you know, no more abusing recreational drugs. And I haven't had anything since then. So, yeah, I had a couple of plant medicines, but that's for a completely different intention. So it's, you know, it's completely different, you know. So that was it. And as that point, I went on the surfing trip with my mates, had 10 days with the boys, and, you know, they all do what they do. And the conversation in the pool every afternoon, we're having a beer, I was saying, that's it, I'm done. And, you know, mates always love to support you. They're like, come on, mate, as if you're going to give it up. Come on, mate, you're the party guy, you know. And they didn't do it. They didn't do it to drag me down, but that's what people unfortunately do. You know, it's like when you say, I'm not having a drink, someone goes, go on, just have a beer. They don't realize that they're not supporting you. They think they're just helping you be yourself, you know. But so yeah, that was and that was good because that gave me the incentive to, no, I'll prove these guys wrong. I'll prove everyone wrong. I can do this, you know.
Yeah.
And the K2 Kel and Ray team with their magic in marketing found their way into my newsfeed on Facebook, and Brooke and I went to the Fast Growth Summit. I went because I wanted to learn the social media for work. Brooke, I thought it would help her for the mindset. And then we went to the Fast Growth Summit, and, you know, at the time, again, didn't know what was coming in, what was going on. I said, oh, geez, we can't afford to go to Alex Scarlett. And I just thought, we've got to do it. You know, it's not even a choice. We've just got to do it, and we'll worry about it later.
Yeah.
So we signed up for that, and you've done that. And you've done that 3 days, and it's life-changing, you know?
Yeah.
So I just kind of, I made a decision, and then I stacked it with some really good behaviors following on to that, and I set myself on a new direction. And so after the 3-day Fast Growth Summit, you know, we went, wow, we've got to get more of this. This is what we need in our life, you know?
Yeah.
All that positive thinking, manifestation, you know, you get what you focus on, you know? So if you spend your life wasting it, you're going to keep wasting it. If you focus on something that's beneficial to yourself, you'll get more of that. The opportunities open up, you know? So we signed up for K2, and I've been in that for 3.5 years now, which has really given me some purpose and helped me put the structures around what I'm doing, and also introduced me to so many new things, you know, like I wouldn't have met someone like you, and I wouldn't have even known what you were, you know, the things that we talked about. They were just like, I didn't even know they existed, you know. So K2 opened my mind to a whole world that I didn't know what I didn't know, but at the same time thought I knew everything. You know, you think when you're in that state, or when I was in that state, I can't talk for everyone else, but when I was living that life, I had it covered. It was good. I was happy, and I was happy, no doubt about it. But you know, I thought I had everything covered. But the more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. The more you realise there is to learn. You know.
100%. Understand. It's such a beautiful show.
So yeah, so that's.
Sorry, do you have anything?
Yeah, that was it. That one moment in time changed my whole trajectory. You know.
It's so incredible, isn't it? Because it's like, I ask this question to people sometimes, and I even look at it myself, is it's like, is there a moment in time, or is there like a consecutive amount of moments that kind of lead to one thing? But I feel it's so beautiful there because, you know, I definitely resonate with what you're saying. Like, I went through those years earlier where I was partying, and I was, you know, and we obviously talk about the herd and the community and how your herd impacts how you show up in your reality, and you become who you surround yourself with. And I got to a point similar to what you were saying there, where I think I was coming back on a train back from triple dropping, I think it was ecstasy, out on a night out. And I remember it was just like a moment, I just felt shit, and I was like never again, you know, never again. And I feel like there's a lot of young dudes, especially who'd be listening to this, who would very much resonate with that. And I suppose it always comes down to an individual journey, and we're all on our individual journey. But I suppose, especially now, you seeing the other side of it, and I can obviously speak from my experience, but seeing the other side of it now and being surrounded by such a powerful and supportive and inspiring herd and community and the K2 elite, out the other side, what would you now go back and say to the older version of yourself, if you could?
I mean, that's a great question. Someone in K2, I was on stage for 15 minutes a few weeks ago, and I told a bit of this story, and someone reached out to me straight afterwards and said they've got a young kid that's going through a similar sort of thing. And I said, what lessons would you teach him? So I've answered this a couple of weeks ago, and before I go there, I just want to talk about what you just said, because I think it is a series of things that happen, but the powerful thing is it all starts with one decision and then taking the action, So it didn't just happen one day. I'd been doing this for 21 years or 25 years, whatever it was. And I got to the point where enough had become enough. So I'd been contemplating it. And I'd said to myself, I don't know, 50 times beforehand, oh no, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. And I might have gone a month here and a month there, but I know deep down inside, I hadn't truly made the decision to stop. I just made the stop for now. But in that moment in time, I made the decision to stop forever. And that's the thing. It all starts with a decision, and that comes to everything, whether you want to be happy, whether you want to be motivated, no matter what you want to do, it all comes to one decision, right? But then you got to take the action, and you got to take actions that support that decision, because once you start to take that action, all your beliefs will change and then start to support what you're doing, So for example, if you want to drink alcohol every Friday night, you'll go to the pub and you go, oh, I'm having the best time ever. Look, and all your beliefs will then start to support that decision of I'm at the pub with the boys and it's awesome. So that's the decision, then the actions, and then your beliefs change. Same for if you want to go the other way. When I made the decision that I'm not going to do that anymore, I started to find the herd, as you talk about, the K2, and I start to see success and what that looks like and positive mindsets. And then your beliefs will follow that as well. So the decision, the action, then your beliefs change, So it really all does come to that decision. And then I think I said before, stacking my behaviors so that I could facilitate success with myself. I didn't go back down the pub on a Friday night. I put myself in places where I wasn't going to be exposed to it until I built the internal strength to say no in those situations, So that was that. I think that's a really important thing. Is you've got to set yourself up for success if you want to make that. If you want to go in that direction, I mean, that goes with everything in business and everything, but in particular around the recreational drugs. And then the other part to that was, what advice would I give to myself?
Yeah.
What I said to the lady would be, if he's heading that way, then to see the where people end up can be quite shocking for some kids in that teenage years, So take them to places where you see people living on the streets that have, that are abusing drugs or alcohol, and let them see the consequences of their actions.
Yeah.
Because I can't teach you a lesson. I can tell you my experience, but you've got to make your own decisions.
That's it.
And I wouldn't change a thing. And that's the unfortunate part about living and learning, is it's made me who I am. Going through everything I went through, it's made me who I am. It's given me the wisdom that I have. It's given me the resilience, the ability to negotiate anything and handle anything, So I wouldn't change it for me. But if my kids are in the same situation, I'd do everything I could to change it for them.
Yeah.
I would do everything I could to let them see the impacts of their decisions.
Yeah.
And show them both sides of that coin. But certainly, as you said, surrounding yourself with the right people. Groups like yours certainly seem like the right places for people that are half in, half out, to surround themselves with the right people, so that you set yourself up for success rather than staying in the same situation. Now, I'm still good mates with all the guys I grew up with, and they still do it. Every other weekend they're still doing it. That's cool. But it took me time to be strong enough that I could still be in those situations. It doesn't just happen. Well, it didn't for me. Just happen overnight. I think it took me a month before I sort of put myself in that situation, and it still comes up. First time you go out for lunch with all the boys, you go, oh, this is when we normally go to the toilet together. And I had to, no, you're not doing that anymore, So it sort of comes from that. But from my life lessons, the advice that I would give is to know where you want to end up, and to have a plan or a focus, because when you don't know where you're going, something will come up, an obstacle, a roadblock, a big night out, whatever it'll be. And, you know, you sort of, if you don't know where you're going, you just sort of, okay, cool. And it just knocks you off path, and your path becomes a jagged highway all over the place. Whereas if you know what you want to achieve, so if you've got a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, or even a 12-month plan, if you know what you want to achieve in 12 months, when these things pop up, you know, you can go around them and continue on your path in that straight direction.
Yeah.
But if you don't know where you're going, you know, you're like a pinball machine. You know, you just bounce your way all over, and you could end up wherever you end up because you didn't know where you were going to start with. So certainly having a plan of what you want to achieve, and you know, I'm not saying I'll be here and doing this and bang, 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 but you've got to know where you're going to end up. Because if you don't know where you're going to end up, you can't reverse engineer it to find your path.
100%. I like that. That was one of the biggest pieces of clarity. Like, it's like, you know, we understand these things, but I feel like for, let's say, working with Cohen Ray, he does that so beautifully, where he like breaks it down so simply. You know, I sat down and I did the BHAG and that process of understanding what's your purpose, your mission, the big hairy goal, and then you break it down, and and it comes down into, and I love what you're talking about there, setting yourself up for success, because I remember after the nail and scale it, you asked what were my upcoming tasks. And it was great feedback, because this is a pattern I ran, and I even ran it in the 3 commitments I made to myself, is I would overextend the goals.
I saw you at the dog food.
Yeah, that's it, man. Man of my word. My word is my bond is my truth is my power. And
100%.
Yeah, and today I reclaim that power. And yeah, it was beautiful, that realization, because you're like, hey man, that's a lot of stuff. Make sure you're setting yourself up for success. And it's so interesting, because it's kind of counterintuitive to the way sometimes we think, is that we have to set these, like, let's say, it doesn't mean that you can't aspire for greatness, right? That's not what it is, but it's about breaking it down into small chunks so it is easily digestible, you know? And that is one of the biggest breakthroughs I had. And you were talking about setting yourself up for success, and say, like, we're talking about this transition now, which you're talking about moving from one herd to another, or not even completely migrating out of a herd, but starting to take action towards, you know, the person that you actually do want to be. Is, I feel like what you're saying there is you break it down into small, simple actions. It doesn't have to be a massive, huge shift.
So I'll give you a perfect example, right? We're talking about drugs and staying sober. It would be alcohol, drugs, or all drugs, or even smoking, right?
Yeah.
If I sit here and I'm taking drugs and I go, oh, I'm going to have the next 5 years clean. I'm not going to take anything for 5 years. That scares the shit out of you. Like, that's daunting. That's intimidating. That's just overwhelming, right? But if I break that down, it's okay, that's my goal, but let's get it into smaller chunks. This is what I was talking to you. Get them into smaller chunks, you know? What can I do? Okay, well, let's aim for 30 days. I want to go 5 years, but let's concentrate on 30 days. That's still a bit big. That's still a bit frightening.
Yeah.
So why don't I, if I've got a really bad problem, why don't I just try for 1 day? Let's just get through today. And if that still scares me, let's get to lunchtime. You know, I can get to lunchtime. That's easy. That's 5 hours. Right, cool. I got to lunchtime. Awesome. Well done. Now get to dinner. You know, well done. You got, so also it's not 24 hours, because that even seems scary. We're talking 6 hours, you know, so you can break it right down into small, achievable bites. Because if I can do 6 hours today and then 6 hours this afternoon, and I go to bed, cool, I can do that again tomorrow. Yeah, and that's 6 hours each day all of a sudden turns into 30 days pretty quickly. Yeah, and it's the same in business. You know, I'm going to build my website. Yeah, okay, cool. That's a 3-month project. Don't give yourself 30 days for it. But when you break that down, reverse engineer it, what do I have to do today that's going to help me get there? Well, okay, today all I've got to do is contact 3 web developers. Yeah, just research what 3 I'm going to use. Tomorrow, I'll reach out to them. The next day, I'll ask for quotes, or I'll follow up. You know, they're really small, bite-sized chunks that I can do every day that's going to get me there. If I just focus on, I've got to build a website, far out, where do I start? Shit, you know, like, it's overwhelming. And it's just that ability to just reverse engineer it and give yourself small little things that you can achieve, and, you know that you can't do that in 30 days. It's going to take you 3 months. And I think that's what I said to you. You know, you've set yourself pretty big task. And the problem with it is you get halfway through it and you go, I'm not going to make this.
Yeah.
So you give up because it's too hard, rather than making it achievable, set yourself something that's achievable. And then all of a sudden you've got 30 days, after 15 days, you've almost done it. You go, oh, hell is this? What else can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. So true. That's a golden Easter egg there. Like, to anyone listening, bank that one, because I know I certainly have. Is like not not even butter and bread. Like, being honest, like that. I think that is so important and is so often missed. Let's say even with younger lads who are aspiring to do more, and there can be that sort of culture of trying to put out push yourself beyond what you think is achievable, but as you're saying there, our brain just works so much more simpler if we can break it down into small chunks and really reverse engineer, and then even with something that Colin Ray was talking about too, is going on like a commitment diet and only settling, like we can so often write a certain amount of to-do lists. And I know we're going off in a little bit of a tangent here, but I feel it's applicable for sure, is write in a massive to-do list or all the things you need to do. And then, but if you were to actually break it down into just 2 to 3 things that you could do in a day, then you get that done and it creates that momentum, as you're saying.
There's the other thing with that too. There's actually a book on that called The One Thing. It's all just about that, because quite often if you focus on just that 1, 2 or top 3 things, the other 10 things all of a sudden don't matter anymore. They become obsolete, or when you fix the biggest problem, the other ones go away because other things happen, or you rectify those as well. So definitely just picking out, which is why in K2 we do 5 things. But there's also like a thing I learned in NLP, that your brain can only handle 5 plus or minus 2 chunks of information at any one time. So 3 to 7 is all your brain can handle. So if you all start to give yourself more than that, where do you end up? You're chasing your tail, or it's overwhelming. You just don't do anything. You sit back and go, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. So that's just the way we're wired. So work with what we've got. Don't try and create a new wheel.
100%. Bring it back down to KISS, which is like keeping it simple, stupid. And I'd love to kind of delve a bit deeper here, because I feel like there's even more golden nuggets there. But let's say even for the business journey, right? And then going out and creating a life that you desire. And I know for you personally, you've gone into NLP deeply, which obviously is extremely powerful in understanding the way your mind works, that we create our own reality. How important is it to like build towards and choose and create a path, I suppose, that is aligned for you? And what would be your perspective on someone beginning that path?
Just ask that for me again. So just ask it again for me.
No worries at all. So say, for example, someone's starting out the journey of seeking to create a life that they desire and that's fulfilling to them.
Yep.
What would be your perspective on, I guess, how important that is, and I suppose how they could start that process?
Well, obviously, you can do anything you want in life, right? And you can be happy. But people work from everyone's different. Everyone wants different stuff, and everyone's motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by money, some people aren't. It depends where your values are, because what your values are what motivates you, right? Whatever you value motivates you. Mm-hmm. For me, like, my purpose is just to create memorable experiences. That's why I end up in hospitality. I'm the fun guy. I'm the party guy. I'm always, I want everyone around me to have fun. I want everyone to be enjoying themselves, and I do it naturally. That's me living on purpose. So it's about tapping into what. That's right. Yeah. You got to take a little bit of bark off every now and then. So you've got to understand what makes you happy and what makes you tick. Where do you lose time and space when you're doing something? Like, think about a musician. When a musician sits down and starts playing music or write music, they can be there for 24 hours, or an artist, a painter. They just go into that flow state where they're not conscious of what they're doing. That's living on purpose. For a lot of teachers and nurses, people like that are really caring and giving and like to look after others. That's when they're in their place where they just love doing that, you know? So, and everyone has that. Not everyone discovers their purpose. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about discovering your purpose and your why, you know, why you do anything. But certainly finding a way to find your purpose, which is usually where you love to do things, whatever you love to do, whether it be sailing, mountain climbing, you know, mountain biking, rock climbing. Like everyone has something that they love doing.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can do that or more of that and make money from that, you'll always be happy doing what you're doing. You know, it's not about the money. The money will come because you're doing what you love and you love getting up every day and doing it. You know, we only get so much time in our life. Some of us get more, some of us get less, but you only get it. You either spend it, invest it, or waste it. And if you're doing something you're not happy doing, you're wasting it because you don't get it back, you know? So you've got to find a way to invest your time, you know, and get something back for it. You know, an investment's where you put in and you get back. So finding what you love to do is the first place, and then try and commercialize that, you know, find a way to, you know, because if you're starting a business that you just don't enjoy doing, you know, it's going to be a time, there's going to be a use by date on that, which is cool if you want to keep changing businesses, if you want to do that. But if you want to do something forever and you want to enjoy it and love it, make money, do what makes you happy.
It's so interesting, and I love that because it's so interesting. That was one of the breakthroughs I had is all the things that light me up and come naturally to me are exactly what the fuck I'm supposed to do, you know, and it really can be that simple because I like to say that it's like call them like little golden Easter eggs, and you can like look back through your life and see what has naturally lit you up. It's like a treasure map that you've given yourself, you know, and when you kind of track the themes that light you up, as you're saying, the money will come because just logically you'll show up at, as you're saying, you'll apply more, you'll be better at it. People will be more willing to pay because they can see the passion. You'll go that extra mile. So then it flows from there. And I suppose, yeah, that is such an important point. And obviously there isn't education around that, but I suppose that's the beautiful thing is then it comes to investing in yourself, and through investing in yourself you discover that. So then my next question to you would be, because you're obviously surrounded in community, and I've definitely vouched for being part of a community and a herd, but also investing in environments, putting yourself in the position where you can get around those people. So how for you important has it been to seek mentors who are living the life that you want?
Absolutely the best thing you could ever do, you know, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you can read all the books in the world and, you know, you pick up little bits along the way and you've got a great idea, but to hang out with people and meet people and spend time with people that are doing it and living it, and you can model that, that to me is just the greatest. I was lucky enough when before I started my business, I worked at Merivale, and the general manager at the time, John Franks, he was my mentor. It still is like a second dad to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, my dad was my first mentor in life, you know? Your dad,
Of course, yeah.
You know, my dad is the first one that teaches you the rules of life, you know? And then everyone sort of gets to that teenage years where you kind of rebel away from your family. It's quite a common thing that a lot of kids do, especially boys.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was looking for my next teacher, and one of my best mates now, he was my first manager when I got in hospitality. He taught me the ropes in hospitality, so he was like my mentor. We're still best mates now, you know.
Yeah.
And then I met John Franks, and he became my next mentor. And then I started my own business, and I'd been in business for 13 years before I found my next mentor. And I was looking and looking and looking and looking because, you know, I like to learn, you know, but I didn't know where to go. And then that's what Kerwin Ray and the K team provided, because it's not just Kerwin Ray, you know, like he's the head, the leader, or the spokesperson, but it's the community that we've got of people that can solve any problem for you, you know, give you the answers. You've got to solve the problem yourself, but they can give you the answers. They can give you the support. And, you know, it's also having a cheer squad, someone on your side, you know, like where do you have in the world that you can make a mistake and you'll have 100 people, 50 people, 300 people going, you're right, mate, you got this, try it this way next time. Yeah, you got it. Go and get it. If you don't, I'll help you. You know, they don't exist. So when you can find those communities, they're gold. You got to hang on to
Yeah.
them with both hands.
100%. And like we're built to be in tribes and communities, you know, and I suppose that's even similar to myself, what I'm seeking to build with Brotherhood, and that healthy community where it's support, because you know within Australia there is that phrase of like the tall poppy syndrome, and you know even when we're talking about there, and I know Cohen talked about it, and this is beautiful because we don't know any better, right? But we're starting to shift the dynamics of society that usually sometimes when you step forward into moving forward with your life, it brings up people's insecurities. So then naturally, then the natural reaction may be to peg the person back down, right? And I'm suppose we've all done it in our life if we're being honest too, when we felt uncomfortable. And you can only go so far alone. And I really talk about together everyone achieves more, team. Like that's the motto of Brotherhood is that team environment. And like personally for me, I remember I used to play soccer, so that was a massive part of my personal life. And I remember we'd be down like maybe like 2 goals or whatever. And I was the sort of person who just wouldn't fucking give up, who would just be like, no. And sometimes it would take, you know, you'd almost like grab the team by the scruff of the neck and throw in a challenge or whatever. And then, or someone else would do it. And then you could feel the whole spirit of the team. It's almost like it's a collective hive mind just shifts. Right. And I feel like that is their moments where like in those games we've come back and we've won, you know, and that for me is certain periods in time where I look at that and I'm like, okay, well there's something to that. And I feel like the same goes for what you're talking about, having that support system around. I know I personally find that as well for myself in business, right? It is probably the hardest sport there is out there, right? Because the percentage rate of people who succeed is so low that it can be so easy to get down on yourself or to, you know, tap out or whatever. But when you have that support system around, you have those people who go, no, we're not fucking losing this game. Like we're doing this, or who are being the example of what you wish to see persisting through. I feel is so underrated and so important. And it's really interesting because there's a gentleman within my community who's a great business mind. And he talks about this, that like, let's say the last 10, 20 years was all like the age of the internet. So online connection. All right. And we're really seeing that flowing through. And then he talks about that the next 10 to 20 years will be the age of community. So where people are starting to form communities around, and that's where businesses will really grow, because what will happen is each individual will start to, you know, find their personal legend, then be part of a aligned community, and then eventually that community will trade together, and that will really grow to the next level. And yeah, I suppose it's interesting then flowing off, just talking a little bit more about that community, and I suppose even more what it's offered for your life.
So it's, as you've been talking, there's two parts to that for me, you know. I spoke about it before, saying the brain can only handle, you know, 5 plus or minus 2, so 3 to 7 chunks of information, right?
Yeah.
So if you're focused on negativity, you're going to get more negativity, because, you know, there's 40 trillion bits of information hitting you every second of the day, and you can only handle 5, you know, 3 to 7 of them. So if you're focused on, you know, the tall poppy syndrome and bringing people down, that's what you're going to get more of, because everything else just goes by.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're in a community, or if you're surrounded with positive people that are there to build you up and to help you, then all of a sudden you're not focused on the negativity. You're focused over here on the positivity, on the opportunities, and you know, you don't have a fixed mindset anymore. You've got an open mindset, open to the opportunities, open to the potential of the world, of everything, right? So if that's what you're focusing on, and you're giving and helping and serving a community, which is what a lot of K2 is, and which I'm sure your community is the same, you get that back in spades, because you get what you put out, you know, and that all comes down to, you know, what your brain can handle, what you can actually take in. So whatever you're focusing on, you'll get more of.
Yeah.
You know, if you're focusing on negativity and bringing people back down to size, you're going to get more negativity. You're going to keep bringing more people back down to size, or, you know, so that shift in mindset is huge. But then there's that service. You know, when you serve people, people give it back to you.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. You can achieve 10 times as much with a community than you can by yourself.
Yes.
You know, it's why every business runs in teams. Armies run in teams. You know, they work in teams because you can get so much more done.
Definitely. And where was I going to go with that one? Well, I love that idea of the collective mindset. And then also what you're talking about there, the shift in mindset and focusing on what you want, right? Because there is a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which filters in what's important to us. It's like what you were talking about. Well, if you know, when you get a new car, you finally fucking see that car everywhere. And then you're wondering, well, what
100%.
the hell has that been there the whole time? No, it's just because it's now important to you and your brain's filtering it in, right?
Yeah.
So then it's like what you're talking about there, where if you're filtering in the mindset that, you know, there's opportunities coming for me and you're seeing people jumping on opportunities, it's naturally going to flow into your brain. You're going to see the opportunities and you're going to take action on them. And then also I feel like it's also having the example of others who have been in a similar position to you and then gotten to where you want to be or whatever, or to where they wanted to be. And then that gives you belief because you see it's fucking happened. Whereas if you don't have examples of that around, it's very difficult for your mind to grasp the concept that can be a reality for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's all just those 1%ers. Like, it comes back to what I said to you. You got to set yourself up for success. And you're not setting yourself up for success if you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people.
Yeah.
If you're still doing the same activities, I think it's Einstein said it, you know, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
You know? So if you're going to keep doing that with those same people, you're going to get it. The other thing that I really starting to believe in, it's not something I knew about 3.5 years ago, but just that energy as well, you know, the energy of people, the energy of the collective, you know. I remember sitting in a room where we all did some breath work, and the amount of energy that came in that room just from, you know, 20 or 30 people doing all this breath work was mind blowing. You know, you could feel the energy in the room. Whereas when you walked in, you couldn't feel it, you know, you sort of, it's a different energy. It's that same thing, you know, that same collective mentality when you're all together working in the same direction or the same common goals and purposes, the energy focused towards that. And that's that same as that soccer example you got, you know.
Yeah.
You collectively change your energy from a negative energy to a positive energy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden things change. Everything changed.
Yes.
You attracted a whole different outcome, you know?
Yeah, it creates a positive charge. And I suppose it often does, and I suppose you can be that positive charge first, you know, if you don't have that environment around, can't you? And it can have a considerable shift.
But not only you can be, you have to be.
Yeah.
You have to change that energy because if you're in a bad place, me, for example, taking drugs and partying my life away, what was I attracting? More and more of the same. I was that negative, you know, and I don't even know if I call it negative. It just was what it was.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no good, bad. There just is. But I was just attracting more of that, you know, and then I made the decision. I made the switch. I found something new and I attracted this new community. I attracted these new opportunities. I attracted this new knowledge, you know, so it absolutely starts with me or you, whoever's the me here, but it absolutely starts with me. And then I make that shift. And then all of a sudden the opportunities come up, you know, and then the community presents the opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, they teach you the new ideas, the new thoughts, the new concepts.
And it's what Colin Ray was talking about as well, where it's like, if you can create this huge pile of fucking shit, right? And it may be difficult to look at this shit, then it's like also then you can create an equally beautiful pile of gold, right? And, you know, I suppose that's what, even what you're talking about, you know, is alchemizing, is what we'd call in our community, is alchemizing your past and turning it into gold. It
Yep.
doesn't matter what happened. So what happened to you has happened, right? And some of it isn't our responsibility. Isn't our fault, but it is our responsibility, right? So it's shifting the perspective on the story. And usually what holds people in their position is the story they're telling themselves, right? And we all have a story and a narrative or whatever for it. But the moment we can seek assistance to shift that story, then naturally our actions and our beliefs starts to change, which then naturally creates different outcomes, as you're talking about. And then talking about energy, as you start to shift your perspective and shift the energy within yourself, as you're saying, you naturally become a magnet to everything that you're seeking in your reality. And then I suppose that comes, and then that would tie into, for yourself, in your journey, how important it has been to actually be honest and look at the shit, and actually look at the shit and honestly, and to face it and to heal it, and to alchemize it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I love that, because there is no good and bad. There just is.
Yeah.
Because when I broke up with that girl 12 years ago, it was the worst thing in the world. It was horrible. Now it's the best thing I ever did. So it's not good, it's not bad, like it just is. It just happened,
Yeah.
And it was a lesson I needed to learn to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And whenever you're going through anything, it's the worst thing ever. But it's 5 years later, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it just was.
Yeah.
And that's and I mean that's what I've learned from Kerwin. What's the lesson in this for me? Why is this happening to me? Because it's happening for a reason. The universe has presented me this opportunity. It's my choice to look at it as an opportunity or as a piece of shit. But for me, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for learning, for growth. What is it here that I need to learn to move to the next step in my life? If I don't learn the lesson, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, until I learn the lesson, and then I can move to the next bit. That's the way. That's just the universe.
It's almost like
what
a
was the part of
game.
your question?
Well, it's interesting. I love where you're going with this.
Yeah,
It's
it
almost
is
like
the game,
a
but
game,
you're the creator, the referee, and the player of the game.
Yeah.
It's all your game if you want to take it that way. What was your question, though? Because I wanted to answer that question. Can you remember?
Beautiful. I can indeed. Yeah. So how important then has been facing, I guess,
the truth?
Yeah.
The absolute truth. Yeah, I love that, mate. And because again, I said this to someone not that long ago, actually at this event, and we were talking about. I can't remember. He wanted to change things or go to that next step, and he wanted to do the work. And there is no work until you're honest with yourself about what's really going on. And I had a really big breakthrough at that event, actually. Without getting into my personal with my wife's story, but we've been going through some stuff over the last 18 months. And there's a thing called love addiction and love avoidance. And I for so long, or for the 18 months, was like, yeah, I've got a lot of those characteristics, but I don't think I am. Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe. And it took a moment of accident, just the way I wrote something down, and I went, oh, okay, just sit with that for a second,
Yeah.
And that's that being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You can make all the stories up in the world, which I did through my drug taking years. Yeah, no, it's sweet. It's not affecting me. It's not affecting me. Not affecting me. I'll be right. Yeah, no, it's cool. I've got this. The honest of that, the reason I was doing it on reflection now was because it gave me an excuse. If the business failed, for somebody like me that thought I was a real high achiever, does everything right all the time, doesn't ever make mistakes, got the world covered, it gave me a crutch. Well, if the business fails, now I can just say, oh, I've been taking drugs the whole time. Of course it's going to fail, So it was my sort of backup. As soon as I took that away, well, it's just me now. I've got no excuses anymore. So it's that being honest with myself. I had to be honest with myself. Why am I actually doing this? What am I hiding from? Because there is a body of work that drugs and alcohol abuse and any addictions are just a coping mechanism for whatever the real core issue is, And it takes you've got to be honest with yourself if you want to do the work. If you're happy to live blissful, keep living blissful. It's different for everyone. I don't prescribe to anyone. Do whatever makes you happy, But for
100%.
me to do the work, to grow and to learn where I need to grow, there was a level of honesty. And I know there's still parts of my life that I probably haven't faced up to yet, things that I've done or am doing, that's part of the journey, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, it's
That's
an
the next step.
infinite onion.
Yeah, that's the next
Yeah.
step. I'm getting there. I'm getting closer. I mean, I know what they are, but owning it's the next step.
That's it. No, man, I love that. And thank you so much for your honesty, and going off of what you're saying, like I had a massive breakthrough recently. And we talk about this in my psychotherapy training, is like the story is one thing, right? But then there's also the emotional content. So the story is usually the negative perspective we have on something that happened. But then the emotional content is the feeling, the emotion behind it that has not yet been expressed. And it was so beautiful. I sat in on an assisted session. Actually, I think it was like the week after Nail and Scale It. And we were going back through what we call the timeline and everything. And, I'd done a lot of work at that point, but I was logically like, yeah, that's okay. It's all sweet. I see the beauty in that coming on next. But it was beautiful because the facilitator at the time kept bringing me back and was like, look, man, there's like emotions there, and without saying it directly, but the session kept bringing it back to a certain point in time and certain couple of points in time with certain few perspectives that I had. And then it was beautiful because my mom was in that session as well. And, she really recognized me personally as, she's seen me from a boy to a man. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I suppose this is a beautiful example is, then I gave her a hug and then it was like, I just started like wailing and crying for about 10 minutes. And actually it felt like I was finally feeling what I hadn't felt in the past. And that's really, really beautiful too, because when we talk about energy as well, it helps release stuck and stagnant energy within the nervous system to be released, and then obviously our actions shift through that. And the way I like to say it is, emotions are energy in motion. And if you were to chuck an apple in a container in a heated environment, over time it will start to grow mold and everything in the environment will become toxic. And I feel like the same goes for emotions in general, is it's allowing ourselves to feel and having that process and that capacity to feel. And it doesn't mean that we feel the whole time, you know what I mean? There's a time to be present and direct yourself, but there also is a space to feel. And I feel like, for my community, that's what we were talking about recently, even just to have that space where you can feel and without any advice or whatever, but just for space to be held, and
Yep.
and it's interesting for me personally, and I'd love to gauge your perspective on that, because as I've gone through this journey and understanding masculinity itself, I like to say healthy masculinity is having the capacity to be both strong, right, but also gentle, right? So it's having the capacity to still withhold all the great qualities of masculinity, which is like strength, courage, leadership, and all those beautiful things, but then also marrying it with, let's say, the more feminine aspects of emotions, compassion, empathy, love. And I feel like that's the way forward. And I suppose from your perspective, going into this work, what would be your perspective on that?
Well, that's my work, brother. You just nailed it right on the head.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm at. And my part of the journey that I'm focusing on now is actually the feeling.
Yeah.
I've been up here for too many years, and not down here, and that's where I'm at. So I can't give advice there. Yeah, it's where I'm at, and it's something that I probably hid from, for a lot of years, and that's that part of that, being honest with myself.
Yeah.
And it's taken me 3.5 years at K2 to get to this point. But I've probably been working on for the last 6 months. But yeah, it's what Kerwin talks about a lot. The duality. The masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
The positive and the negative. Everything's
Yeah.
balanced in life. The yin and the yang. So it's you've got to have both, and you can't just have one without the other. Or I mean, you can have anything, but you're not balanced.
Exactly.
But I certainly subscribe to everything you just said about the stored emotions. They're your triggers. That's what that's the stored emotions. And when you get irate or you get emotional or upset, that's something that you've just pushed down inside you somewhere, and you've stored it in a fat cell or in a as a hieroglyphic in a cell or something, whatever,
Yeah.
and they're just waiting to pop out and bite you on the ass when you're not ready, because you haven't moved through it. You haven't learnt the lesson. You haven't got what you need out of it. It goes back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten what you need out of it yet, and to release the energy, because it's energy stored in your body. It's all energy. Everything's just energy.
100%.
And it's there until you can release it or convert it into a different energy.
Yeah, alchemize it, as we were saying there.
Mm.
Yeah, it then is alchemized into gold, because it's even in the emotions, then that capacity to feel allows you to hold space for other people to do the same, and
Yeah.
and even when you're talking about the story, and man, thank you again for your honesty, is, well, it was interesting. One of my mates said, your why is what hurt you. Now I would shift it and say what healed you. Right. But but you could look at it from both perspectives, right? Is usually the darker parts of our life, in the beginning, or whatever it is for our story, like provides that fire under our ass to actually do something and stand up. And it's so interesting that it's usually the challenges that people face in their life is then what they go on to be their purpose often.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't talk too much to that. I don't believe your why is what hurts you. It comes back to, again, there's no good and bad. There just is, perspective. Um, my why now is my family. That's why I do everything now. Again, it comes back to my purpose of creating memorable experiences.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. I don't know if I can give too much insight into that, because it just didn't strike me then.
Yeah.
Nothing come
Resonate.
up. Everything else just say goes boom, but yeah.
No, beautiful. Okay, awesome. No, and I love that. So I suppose then going on the deeper sense of this is, so taking responsibility for your life. So as men, we love to at our core go, yes, I take responsibility for my life and all these sort of things. I'm doing the best I can or whatever. And I also feel part of being a man taking responsibility is doing the internal work, right? And shifting ourselves and looking at what needs to be done. And then, but often what begins that is a why bigger than ourselves. So for you, it's like your family, right? So we'll never do more for ourselves than we'll do for other people. And I suppose, what does that mean for you then?
I don't know. As you were saying that, I do get stuck a little bit on it, because I don't have to be a man, you have to do this, because everyone is different. And I look at all of my mates, and they're all extremely different to me, even in their mindset and even around doing this sort of work. They just don't believe in it, and they'll go to their graves not believing in it. That's cool. They're going to be happy. They don't need anything more, and everyone's different. But if you have a need, or if you've gone through some trouble in life and you can't conquer it, or you can't get to that next step, well, then there's work to be done. And a lot of people are in that situation. A lot of people can somehow snooker it away and blinker it off, and they may or may not go through issues in life. That's everyone's on a different journey, and some people just don't need to dig the hole. They don't need to pick at the festering wound. But if you've got a festering wound, as you said before, it's like the apple that gets rotten. If you've got that, it's going to bite you somewhere. Something's going to come up, whether it be broken relationships, whether it be can't hold down a job, whether it be your business keeps failing, because your business is just a reflection of you.
Mm.
You know, if you've got internal stuff going on, your business is going to reflect that. You know, so they're the people that sort of need, or I don't like to say need either, but would be benefited by doing some work,
100%.
by finding it. You know,
100%, 100%. And I suppose then that comes back to you talking about understanding the vision. Where would those people be, and then reverse engineering how you could get into that environment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, and everyone's journey starts at a different point and finishes at a different point, if it ever finishes. But you know, it's like I've seen in KT, you know, so many people come in with amazing businesses, but they're still not happy.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not happy with the business, or something's not right. You know, and a lot of the work that's done in K2 is personal work. You know, and then you can sort of look at things from a different set of eyes and realize that it's actually pretty fucking amazing.
Well, and you know, you said a few times you don't know what you don't know, and it was really interesting because even going and doing Nail and Scale It beforehand, I was at a certain period in my life where I was like, fuck, I literally do not know what the next step is. And then Nail and Scale It brought, I feel like I have enough clarity now for the next fucking 2 years. And luckily enough, like blessed, thank God, we get to go and do it again in May. So it's like, you know, it's beautiful the way things work out. But it really is interesting because without that awareness, you literally will not know what the next step is, because your brain doesn't have the information it needs to see the opportunity.
That's right. Yeah, and even if you can see the opportunity, like you again, like I said, you can read all the books in the world. Oh, this I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. But unless you actually have the mentor, someone stepping you through what's next, you know, sometimes you need it. Some people don't. Some people are geniuses and can do it without it. You know,
100%.
But then there's the rest of us mere mortals that actually need the guidance and the help. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, and like, you know, like I talk about some of my mates, and they've got amazing businesses. But knowing now what I know, you kind of look at it and go, "Oh wow, that could be next level if you know you had the guidance."
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't want it, and that's cool. They don't need it. Go through life.
That's it. It's beautiful, and I feel like we're coming towards the end here, and there's some awesome points that we've touched on. What would be your last little golden nuggets, or things that have really worked true for you in your life and that you really live by, that you could share?
I don't think we talked about it enough, but it's that being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because you can lie to yourself so easily and say to yourself, "No, I've got this covered. I've got it. I'm all over it." But you've got to give yourself the time to actually sit and think about whether you did or not.
Yeah.
And a lot of workaholics are workaholics. It's an addiction, because they're, you know, it's the coping mechanism for whatever the problem is. And to give yourself the time to actually sit and reflect and ask yourself, have I really got this covered? What do I really need next?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's that, giving yourself that time and space to be honest with yourself, you know, to then opens up new doors, new opportunities. And if you don't give yourself that time or space, and if you don't create the opportunity for you to reflect, then you'll just keep bouncing from door to door, pillar to pillar, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. Like the pinball machine.
Correct.
100%. Beautiful, man. Well, I just want to say personally, I always jump onto here as a student, and I love these conversations because I always learn so much every single time. And just from me personally, man, just want to thank you so much for jumping on, even in the midst of Renos and everything. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your wisdom. I've gotten a lot out of it, and I know whoever's listening as well would have got a lot out of it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, mate. And I'll see you at Sydney in May. You coming down, are you?
Super pumped. I'll be down. Myself and my mate Maddie will be down. Yeah,
awesome.
Really looking forward to it. It's just gonna exponentially grow on top of the last Nissi. And my man,
yeah, right on.
Anyone who wants to reach out or feel like they would love to reach out from this, whereabouts can they find you?
Little Jack Horner in Coogee. No, mate. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Brenton McHatton.
Yeah.
Actually, might be under BJ McHatton on Facebook. Little Jack Horner. Just reach out. As I said, my purpose in life is to create memorable experiences. So if anyone has anything they want to have a chat about, I'm always around.
Beauty. And I'll link all that stuff below for anyone who wants to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I think we spoke about it, mate. I'd love to come and help you out at one of your retreats one day too. I think it'd be amazing.
Oh, that would be beautiful. Oh, that's awesome. We've got the next one in June, and then after that, definitely for sure, man. Would love to have you there. I think it's
cool.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Definitely work that needs to be done. But bro, go and have a wicked day. And thank you so
Sweet,
much.
buddy. You too. Talk soon.
All right, have a good one. See you guys.
See you, mate.
Bye bye.